Good morning, Ken. 610. Good morning, Ken. 610. Ken Collier right here on WIOD. Good morning, Ken. 610. Good morning, Ken. 610. Ken Warren right here on WIOD. WIOD Miami 610. WIOD. There are no shortcuts on the highway to happiness. Happiness is the way you feel inside. Happiness is the sound that reaches far and wide. WIOD. Keep knowing where the weekend's going with the News Voice of Florida. WIOD from Miami. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1955. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1956. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1957. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1958. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1959. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1960. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1961. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1962. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1964. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1965. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1966. Here's a 610 souvenir. The was 1967. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1968. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1969. Here's a 610 souvenir. The year was 1970. A rainy day in Miami. The grass is growing tall. And let's hear what 610 weather has to say to y'all. Ooh, ooh, ooh. A rainy day is brighter on WIOD. Keep score on a football weekend on the sports voice of Florida, WIOD Miami. This is the world's greatest radio station for Florida, WIOD.
From Miami.
Here's the weather in Dade and Broward from the voice of Florida, WIOD. Mork and Warren, straight ahead. Mork and Collier, straight ahead. Moorfield Whitelaw, straight ahead. Ned Powers, straight ahead. On the news voice of Florida, WIOD from Miami. On the news voice of Florida, WIOD from Miami. And the beat goes on from dusk till dawn. Ned Powers is on WIOD. 610, 610, 610, WIOD. There's fruit for living in Florida, WIOD. WIOD. WIOD 610 Miami. You'll have a bright new day if Ken Warren has has his way. So start out the happy way with WIOD. Oh, happy day, fill white Law's way on WIOD. Just another beautiful day in Miami, USA. So let's hear what 610 weather has to say. Another beautiful day on WIOD. Merry Christmas,
WIOD.
Merry Christmas from WIOD. Happy holidays from the voice of Florida, WIOD. A cloudy day in Miami town, but don't let the gray skies get you down. Let's hear what 610 weather has to say for today. That's 610 weather on WIOD. Stormy, it's stormy, so stay alive, take care if you drive. Let's hear what 610 weather has to say. That's 610 weather on WIOD. Heading to work with the voice of Florida, WIOD.
Miami. Heading home.
Heading home, WIOD.
Where is Lejeune Road?
In Miami,
Biscayne Boulevard.
in Miami,
Galloway to the Causeway,
Douglas Road and Flagler Street.
Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Drive.
Ain't it great to be alive?
round Miami, WIOD. Relax, have fun on this weekend, WIOD.
NBC.